welcome. I'm excited to be here for today's episode where we are going to be talking about the foundation of friendships, and not just any friendships, but godly friendships. Now, in this series of the Meant for More podcast, we are going to dive deep into multiple themes, multiple verses. I'm even going to have multiple friends and interviews come in to really talk about what it looks like to create this community and connection God's way. Now, I think in today's world, it's really interesting. The loneliness epidemic that we are in, the Surgeon General actually came out with an 84-page report that talked about how we are in a loneliness epidemic. And I think it's because so many times we have been trying to do friendship and connection the way that the world says to do it. And it's kind of this only good vibes, and if we can't do conflicts well, or if you don't agree with what I agree with, or if you don't vote the way that I vote, or you put something mean on social media about me, boom, we're done, we're out, delete, block, all the things. When in reality, God has called us to a different standard of friendship and connection. So this first episode of this series that I'm going to be doing, I'll have different acronyms for each lesson that we're going to be going through. And for this first lesson, we're actually going to be going over what it looks like to develop a friendship foundation, especially with faithful friends. And if you can remember the acronym B.O.N.D, B.O.N.D, then this is going to help you in this episode, okay? So B stands for brotherly or sisterly love. And what does it actually mean from a biblical perspective to love like family, even with people who maybe aren't our family, okay? So brotherly or sisterly love in the Greek, this is the word Phileo. I'm sure if you've been around the Christian world and those Christian circles, you've heard this word Phileo. And what Phileo means in the Greek, and this is what it looks like to love your brothers and sisters in Christ, is it's this deep affection and loyalty shared between close friends, not just biological siblings, okay? So this is for us as sons and daughters of God. We are called to love our brothers and sisters. And it's not just our biological siblings, right? I have two brothers. I love them. And what's interesting is that we are called to this phileo love with people that aren't our blood relatives, right? So this kind of love it's marked by commitment, not convenience. And this is actually really, really challenging to those of us in today's world, because a lot of times we actually reorient our lives around convenience. We reorient our lives around, I don't feel like that today, and I don't want to go do that, and I have to get off the Netflix and chill, and I'm tired from work, or whatever it might be. But God has actually called us to reorient our lives and to hold at a higher value, not our convenience, which most people, they hold their convenience, their comfort at a higher level compared to commitment and community and friendship. So if we are actually supposed to reorient our lives in a way that it might be uncomfortable, it might challenge our comfort, it's going to challenge our convenience, but to actually hold higher value for commitment, for community, and for connection, this is what phileo love looks like for us as Christ followers. And so this also looks like this phileo love, what we're called to build these faith-filled, this foundation of friendship, is it also means that it's the love that chooses to stick with someone, not just when things are easy, but actually when they're hard, and especially when they're hard. We are called to be with people in the dirt, to be with people in the junk, to be with people in their mess, and not be like, oh, like only good vibes, like sorry, like you're not, like I don't want to be around that. Like that is like such a worldly view of commitment and connection and friendship. And I actually believe that it perpetuates an unhealthy relational dynamic. And when we actually aren't able to work out hard things within relationship, within the context of community, it stunts our relational growth. It stunts our EQ, right? We hear this word, this emotional IQ. And I think a lot of times in today's world, our brains try and understand people from the point of, oh, I'm just gonna like slap a label on somebody. I'm gonna put like an alphabet soup on them. They're a XYZ, they're an ADHD, they're an ABC, they're a narcissist, they're a whatever label I can put on someone because that helps me like think that I understand them, when actually I'm called to relate with them, like to be in community with them and to get to know them relationally, and to get to know them and to stick with things when they're hard. And that's where actually like trust is built in that space. If you think about like King David and Jonathan in the Bible, Jonathan actually risked his own safety, his position as prince, as the heir to the throne, as the up and coming king in that era, his position to protect David, even though it cost him dearly. And this kind of love is selfless, it's sacrificial, it's enduring. It sticks with things when they're really, really, really hard. So within our acronym for today's episode for B.O.N.D, B-O-N-D, that's that brotherly or that sisterly love. That's that Phileo in the Greek. Why this is important in a world where relationships are often superficial and temporary, brotherly love actually stands out. For us as the church, for us as the bride, we're actually meant to like literally be the examples. It says that they will know us by our love, and I don't think that we're there yet. And I think that this is what's coming down the road. Brotherly love, this Phileo love, this connection and community that people are longing for in today's loneliness epidemic. This is actually what it looks like to stand out. It creates a foundation of trust and safety, allowing friends to be vulnerable and authentic. It's not this surface type of friendship. It's not this surface type of a connection. It actually means that we are allowing ourselves to be seen and we are seeing others. We are allowing ourselves to be known and we are knowing others. And I think that this is actually a lot of times where people kind of miss it. I know for me, I totally have I've made mistakes when it has come to vulnerability. There have been times where I have like overshared and thought that people were, safe and like that they were worthy of parts of my story or parts of my heart, when in reality they weren't. I think there's this concept, Lisa Bevere, she talks about this, but it's kind of this transactional versus transformational relationship. Transactional relationships and connections, it's a little bit more like, whether it's business or it's a little bit more surface, it's a little bit more like official. Yep, this is you give me this, I give you that type of thing. Transactional compared to transformational actually is more of this sacrificial, like, oh, I'm like so willing to actually open my heart and to be hurt by you, which can feel really, really vulnerable. But that actually starts to help develop trust, and trust in a relationship, trust in connection. You can have weight on trust. You can't have necessarily weight on relationships that are built with charisma and personality and only good vibes and transactional type of a things. Transactional means, oh, if you're not giving 50-50, or if I haven't gotten what I get out of whatever it is that you give me, I'm not giving you anymore. Like, you can't really put weight on that. And it also is really important to know the difference. I know I've been in connection and friendships and relationships and business partnerships where for me, it moved from transactional into transformational, but they stayed in transactional, and I like opened up more of my heart in hopes that it could turn into like a deeper, better friendship, but that other person wasn't willing to go there, and I ended up getting really hurt in that friendship, but it just because they didn't go to that transformational place compared to staying in the transactional place. So it actually is also really important to know what space you're in as far as a connection and a friendship. And those transformational relationships, those transformational friendships, what we're actually called to with a safe God and with safe people is that vulnerability and that authenticity. When you know someone loves you like family, you're actually more likely to open up. You're more likely to take risks. You're more likely to pursue God's calling on your life. I love what Chris Valentin says. He says that, so many times we're like looking for our purpose, but we're not going to find it until we find our people. It's when you find your people, then you will find your purpose. And we're meant to like work out our purpose and develop our purpose and be developed within the context of community. And the call of God on your life actually gets developed within community. And so yes, God will give you a call on your life, but you're meant to like iron sharpen iron and to develop that and have the gold called out in you and to like receive prophetic words and to grow in community within that call, not just be a silo growing the call of God on your life by yourself. This kind of love, this Phileo love, it mirrors God's heart for us. He is always faithful, even when we are not. And I think that this is something that the world is really, really longing for in this season. Now, how can we practice this? We can actually make a conscious choice to prioritize friendship. Be willing to sacrifice your own comfort for your friend's good. Stand by them in adversity. Defend them when they're not around. And celebrate their victories as if they were your own. This kind of love is a choice. It's not a feeling. And it looks like literally reorienting your life around connection and community. One of my girlfriends, she's going through some really, really hard times right now. And at the moment, I'm helping her as a friend. She's one of my dearest friends. And it looks like I'm reorienting in a good way my life to help her with some things that are really hard behind the scenes and paperwork and planning and some different things that aren't convenient for me. And it takes time away from other things for me. And it means I have to say no to other things because my time is blocked out for this person during this time. I'm reorienting my life around deep and rich connection and community. And this is how those godly friendships, this is how that Phileo love starts, right? At first, we orient our life. We gather around the fact that Jesus, right? He's what we gather around. And then we begin to develop those godly friendships and those godly connections. And we cultivate those for the long haul. In a world that wants microwave, in a world that says, I'm in and I'm out and whatever, and I don't really calling people to commitment is huge. And I think part of it, even for us as sons and daughters, what can be really hard and vulnerable is if we still have this orphan spirit, this orphan mentality. Orphans only gather around a table of agreement. That means that, I am only going to be around people that agree with me, that look like me, that are my yes people, only good vibes. They're not going to iron sharpen iron. They're not going to rub me a little bit. We're not going to ever have conflict. Or if we do get in conflict, we're not friends anymore. Compared to sons and daughters, family, they actually come to the table regardless of agreement. They come to the table over and over and over. If you think about your own family, I think about my family, the dinner table. I can have an argument with my husband. We can disagree about something, but guess what? We're still at the dinner table together, and we still come together. With my son, with my daughter, we might disagree on something. He wants to eat popsicles for, 17 different popsicles and just have Doritos all day, and I don't let him, and we disagree on that. But guess what? Sons and daughters, family, we come to the table. My husband and I, we lead under our church, River House. We actually lead a family ministry within our house church, and we were commissioned as house church leaders, and our measurement for success actually looks like family. And it looks like how much family is being reproduced in this space. That's our measurement for success, because when heaven comes to earth, it actually looks like family. And if we're called to bring heaven to earth, family should actually be happening. Sons and daughters are there, like mothers and fathers who are raising up sons and daughters and discipling people. This is literally what it looks like for family, right? And so this is why it's so, so important. So B for bond, that is what that Phileo love looks like. Now B, now we're into O, is this openness. Now this is all about authenticity, and this is the foundation of deep connection. Vulnerability is the foundation of deep connections. And this can feel really, really hard. But there's actually a lot of power in vulnerability. You know, Brene Brown, she's a vulnerability expert, and she talks a lot about this. So I definitely encourage you to dive into some of her books and ideas and concepts. She has a really great TED Talk on it. But authenticity is the foundation of deep connection, and it means being real about your struggles, about your doubts, about your victories, not to hide behind a mask or pretending to have it all together. When both friends are authentic, it actually creates a safe space for healing, for growth, for transformation. And I love this, like this understanding that it has to be both, because sometimes there is one-sided vulnerability. And I think that this can happen in, you know, sometimes in the online space or the coaching space. It's like someone comes into a space with a coach. The coach is more of like the guide, that type of a thing. And this other person is like really, really vulnerable, really, really open, inviting them into different spaces of their heart, of their life. That's not friendship, that's mentorship. But I think that sometimes people can get that confused. But that's different, right? Like it actually takes two to tango. It takes two people to be vulnerable. It takes two people to be open. It takes two people to be authentic about their struggles, about their doubts. Like, oh, like I'm like really struggling in this area. I'm wondering if you can pray for me. And for their victories. Hey, I actually just did this. Like celebrate. Like, would you come and celebrate with me? Right? It's not hiding. It's not pretending to have it all together. It's with a safe God and with safe people that we can be open. Sometimes we actually have to ask ourselves, well, how do we cultivate openness, right? In a world where, there's screens in front of us and who am I even talking to and that kind of a thing. What's really interesting about kind of this vulnerability and transparency and openness conversation is sometimes people can even think that they know us like behind a screen when compared to, or you'll see like these pictures, like people crying on an Instagram post or whatever, and they're like sharing vulnerability. But I think what's really interesting is we actually, in this, like the truth that lives in the tension is that we also have to have these relational boundaries. And I think that social media creates this interesting dynamic of people think that they can know us when they actually don't, or they actually think that they have access to us when they don't. I actually view social media as what's called with transparency. If you think about a house, right? A window is transparent. People can like peer into a window and they can like see parts of someone's life. But not everyone gets invited to come into the front door. Not everyone gets invited to have a seat, at the dinner table. Not everyone gets invited into, deeper, like more vulnerable, like into the most intimate places of the house. And those places actually aren't meant to house everyone. And we're actually not meant to like be vulnerable and open and be exposed and have tons and tons of people actually in our inner circle. We can actually only facilitate in a healthy way about 3 to 5 people within our inner circle. And then there's like more people, like dozens, that can be kind of in our mid-circle, and then kind of in the outer courts, if you will. If you're thinking about a house, that's where you can house hundreds and thousands depending on your capacity. But understand that there's actually healthy relational dynamics that come into what it looks like to develop this transparency, vulnerability, this openness. So it's not that like I have things on my heart and things that we are, whether it's going through or struggles or things that I'm vulnerable with only certain people and only a select few, and it's because trust has been developed over time and they actually get access to those parts of my heart. And when I show other people, it's not that I'm hiding anything. It actually, there's healthy emotional boundaries that happen within that space. And so just know that that is a real thing, and it actually is really, really helpful. And in today's world, it's like, oh, like there is that truth that lives in the tension of, okay, like being vulnerable, if I am showing up on social media in a outward facing way, what does that look like in a healthy way, right? So this back to kind of cultivating openness, I actually like to start by sharing something personal with your friend. It might be a struggle that you're facing, or it might be a fear that you have. Ask for prayer, ask for advice. You know, I was going through something really, really hard behind the scenes, and I sent a message to one of my girlfriends, and I said, hey, I'm actually really struggling right now. Would you mind if we jumped on a call? Like, are you free? And, like, I would love just like your advice, your prayers. You know, she's really gifted prophetically as well. So like, I would love actually like your input into my life and into my heart. But I didn't offer that. I didn't invite everyone into that space. It only is like those people in my inner circle. The next thing as we cultivate openness is to be vulnerable. Like, let your friends see your imperfections, let them see your insecurities, and then listen without judgment when your friend does share from their heart. Right? We want to create an environment where honesty is welcomed and celebrated, not shamed or criticized. And sometimes when we're actually sharing something that's really hard or vulnerable, it doesn't always mean that we need someone to fix it, compared to just listen. And just like, oh, like I can actually be like so seen and loved even in the middle of my mess. And it's so safe for you to be seen and known and loved in the middle of your mess. There's no shame, there's no criticism. I'm not going to try and fix you. I guess I'm here with you, and I love you right where you're at. I don't need you to be perfect. There's space for that, and that's how we start to create and cultivate openness. And then we want to ask ourselves, like, what happens when we're open? Openness leads to trust, and trust leads to intimacy. When you're authentic with your friends and you give them permission to be authentic with you, this is where true friendship begins to grow and flourish. All of this stuff leads to trust, and trust, like you can only move in a relationship at the speed of trust, the depth of trust that's developed. And trust, as it does get developed time after time, like it just takes time, and it takes openness, and it takes risk, and it takes like I remember one of my dearest friends, Kaylee, it was kind of like we'd connected online and at a really fun event in person, and like it's kind of like I like her vibe, like we're kind of getting along, and then it's like it can be awkward, especially as an adult, where we're like like, hey, I actually really like you, would you like want to get coffee? And then we got coffee, and she's like, so are we like friend dating right now? Like, it's awkward as an adult to try and make friends, and it was like we started to friend date a little bit, and okay, have conversations and get to know each other, and it was it's vulnerable, and it takes risks to invite someone into okay, this is a part where I'm struggling, and I'm gonna take a risk and actually invite you into this part of my life or of my heart, and here's this story, or here's this thing, and are you safe for me to offer part of my heart and to have it open and be willing to be hurt by you? That's so risky, and that can feel so vulnerable, but it's in that risk and it's in that openness that they then are able to respond, whether or not they're able to be that for you, and whether or not you are then able to be that for them. And that's where then openness can happen, and that's where trust is developed, and that just takes time. So know that as you're developing godly friendships and godly relationships, that it's going to take time, and that is okay. Okay? So now number 3 in our B.O.N.D, B-O-N-D-N, is nurturing growth. So how do friends help each other actually become better? We actually want to nurture each other. We want to grow each other. It doesn't mean that we always need to fix each other. It doesn't mean that we're not able to sit with each other in the hard times and like, okay, like let's fix it and let's like get out of the ditch type of a thing. But we actually want to help each other become better and to always look more like Jesus. Like Jesus takes us from glory to glory, right? True friends challenge, true friends encourage, they inspire growth in faith, in character, in purpose. They're not afraid to speak truth in love, even when it's hard to hear. I love the verse where it's like, oh, faithful are the wounds of a friend. I think that we forget about that. I think that we forget about faithful are the wounds of a friend. And it's not that we like want to intentionally hurt someone, obviously. Like that's not ever our heart, that's not ever our intention. But if we're true, there's actually is a difference sometimes in our intentions and in our actions. And it's like, oh, I might not have intended to hurt you. Like I trust that your intentions are good, but actually like this hurt, right? But faithful are the wounds of a friend. Even if something's hard to hear, even if it's like, you know what? Like I actually believe that you can be better than this, right? Like it actually, to me, it signals that someone is a good friend. Like if someone's like running off a cliff and they're just like, I actually am not okay with you running off that cliff and like blowing your life up or acting that way, or like you're like, I see like more for you, like you're meant to act like that. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not the way that we act like as a Christian. Like if they're like going off of a cliff, like you better believe I'm gonna tell my friend not to jump off that cliff. You better believe I'm gonna do whatever it is that I can to stop them and to call them out and to call them higher and to call them to be more like Jesus. And that is actually what we're called to do as friends, as Phileo, like what as in these godly friendships, and what God has called us to develop and grow within community. Now, it can sometimes be hard to hear. I know when I receive correction or someone like a friend calls me out and they're like, what are you doing right there? Like, I don't know, like, let's like talk about this thing, right? Or when my husband and I were like, well, like, what was that? Like, you like, what's that thing right there? Like, oh, that's not how we treat each other. That's not how we talk to each other, right? So understand that that truth in love, like it actually is meant to call us higher. Friends, that as we are helping each other become better, we actually celebrate each other's successes and push each other to be the best version of ourselves, which is looking like Jesus. So what does this look like in practice? It actually looks like having honest conversations about goals, about struggles, about dreams. You know, I was actually having a conversation with a dear friend the other day and just sharing, like, there are parts of where, like, I've had dreams that I have, like, just kind of honestly been discouraged about. And at church the other day, God brought me into this beautiful vision of, like, just kind of going into, like, the back of a closet in my heart where I just, like, tucked away this treasure box that had some hopes and some dreams that I just kind of, like, buried away, and I just have kind of had a lot of disappointment around them, and it was just like really hard to hope in that area. And I just saw the Lord like coming in, like kind of pulling that treasure box out, putting a key in it and unlocking it. And so I just kind of shared like vulnerably with her. It was like, oh, like I for sure have like buried some dreams, and I've been navigating disappointment in this area. Like, will you pray with me? Right? And that looks like vulnerability, and that looks like, oh, like here's actually parts of my heart that I'm afraid to reveal or that I have tucked away. Like, this is vulnerable for me. Like, even sharing it with you guys. And I felt so not only seen and known and loved by Jesus in that moment where he showed me, like, oh, hey, like, let's pull these dreams out together. Like, I know you've been navigating disappointment, and part of that healing for me has also been in community. So share, right? Like pray together and for each other. Hold each other accountable in areas where growth is needed. Maybe it's a habit that you want to break or a goal that you want to achieve. Encourage each other to step out in faith, try new things, For me, I actually love being in prophetic communities and in my prophetic collective. This is where we actually encourage each other to step out over the chicken line and giving prophetic words and hearing the voice of God, right? It's all about, and then we get to celebrate each other's progress, no matter how big, no matter how small. This is actually what it looks like in practice. And then the reason this is important is because we all have blind spots and areas where we need to grow. Friends who nurture growth, they help us see ourselves more clearly, and they encourage us to keep moving forward. They remind us who we are in Christ and what we are capable of. I know there are times for me where I get discouraged in mom life and in poopy diapers and in the mundane of things. And what a gift it is to be with a friend who says, hey, you know what? I know you have that dream on your heart, and I believe that God is going to bring that about in his perfect time. And I see you as this, and I believe in you, and I know that God is doing, he's going to complete the good work that he has started in you. Having those faithful friends to remind us that we are in the midst of mundane, when we are in the midst of mom life, that we have a call of God on our life. This is why it's so, so important to be in community. And then D, this in the B.O.N.D of this episode is dependability. Now, dependability is big because I think in today's world, a lot of times we're just kind of in our little world and in our own little bubble, and it can be hard to actually depend on someone. Now, this dependability, it doesn't mean that we are codependent. It doesn't mean that I actually change who I am to protect your feelings or to make you feel a certain way or to walk on eggshells. That's codependency. And it doesn't mean that I'm independent on the other side of the spectrum where I got it, I can do this all on my own, I don't need anybody else. It actually looks like interdependence, where I recognize the need that my soul has to be in community, to be connected, to be seen and heard and known, and to have you be seen and heard and known. That is an interdependence that we actually can't fill that need on our own. We need community. And so this dependability, it looks like that there's actually power in reliability and trust. Dependable friends show up consistently. They keep their promises. They honor their commitments. Trust is built over time through faithful, consistent action. And when you know that you can count on someone, it actually creates a sense of security and peace in the relationship. Now, it doesn't mean that we hold them to the standard of perfection where there's not ever any grace. There is understanding where it's oh my gosh, I totally dropped the ball right there and I'm so, so sorry. But when there's that sense of security and dependability and trust and even consistency in the midst of an inconsistent world, there's real strength in that, and weight can be put on someone that's dependable. Someone that keeps their word, that keeps their promises, that shows up when they say that they're going to show up. So how do we become a dependable friend? Well, be present. Show up for your friend, both in the good times and in the hard times. Communicate openly and honestly. If you say you're going to do something, follow through. Yes, you might have really good intentions, but are your actions matching up with your intentions? Right? If you can't follow through, then let your friend know as soon as possible. Be someone that your friend can rely on no matter what, and find those friends that you can rely on as well. And then why does dependability matter? Dependability is the glue that holds friendships together. It's what turns acquaintances into lifelong friends. When you're interdependent, when you are dependable, when you have found a faithful friend that is also dependable, you show your friend, they show you that they matter to you, that you value them, that you value the relationship, that you are willing to reorient your comfort and put it ahead of and put connection ahead of your own comfort. So this is how you build those unbreakable bonds, B.O.N.D, within godly friendships. All right, this is what we have for this first episode. I would actually love to hear what is resonating with you, maybe what's even challenging you in your friendships that you currently have, or even where you're like, yeah, actually, this is like, I'm doing good, really good in this area. So I would love to hear. Feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram. It's at Charity Majors. The podcast is obviously meant for more, and stay tuned for more within this series about developing incredible godly friendships, unbreakable bonds with biblical foundations and Jesus at the center. All right, my friend, we'll talk to you soon.